so I will not have to look for words in Czech. Slides will be in Czech, so I will try to understand what I wrote. And yes, let's start. Because we're just after lunch, I decided to start with the conclusion. So once you know the most important, you can have a bit of rest. And for those who are interested, you can still follow what we're going to present. So the main idea of this talk is we need to create some kind of alliance of companies, Czech open source companies or Czech companies that are open source friendly. We need this because we need to know about the market, the ecosystem in Czech Republic. We need to spread the word about what is open source to the general public. You know what this is, but not everybody know what this is, what it brings. We need to help Czech open source companies to grow. And yeah, we need to make sure that public money goes to public software. I'm not sure if that's really well translated, but I would say free software as well goes to free software, so that it belongs to the public. So how did it start? Actually, it started with André telling me, because yeah, I forgot to introduce ourselves. I'm French, I live here for 10 years. So sorry, I still speak English. I live here for 10 years, but I used to live in Paris, where I was a member and then president of the local user group. And I also worked in Mandrake, that was Mandrake at the time. So I was deeply engaged in an open source community, but that was 20 years ago. And I live for 10 years here. But I still have some links with friends. This is what you can hear with my accent, for example. But I met some Czechs who have the same interest around open source. And one day, André told me, you know, in France, you're doing well. You have these La Suite thing. Maybe you can explain what you...
Yes, I told Alix that in France, it's have very good direction, these open source efforts. Like there is very strong government department that are sponsoring, for example, metrics and these things. There are really good not inside people, but people really employed by government to do open source. Not just cooperation and some money transfers, but really geeks that do for French government. And with the Germany, it's the best example of how to do it. And I think for the for the Czech people, France is sometimes far away, and there is a language barrier. So I think we can cooperate more than we do, and that was that I told Alix.
Yeah, well, I'm not a member of the French government, so that was not that easy. Yeah, what I can say with La Suite, it's a suite of, it's a bundle of existing free software. And the example you gave me is something they call le chat, which is a matrix and element. So it uses matrix protocol. They have their servers, so they run everything themselves. They just had to make sure this is closed network so that civil servants talk to each other within a government network and there's no interaction with the outside. So that's the idea, to have an internal network that is not open to foreign eyes. And because of that, they had to contribute to Matrix as well. And André was impressed for that the French government is now contributing to the free software that they use. Usually governments, they just take and they take and they use, and they don't give back. And this time with the structure, that's a small structure with not that many people. They buy to companies who know how to do. They build things, and then they also contribute so that they really stick to the needs of ministries, and it's called Dinium. So yeah, we had a few drinks around this, and I like to say that it always starts around a beer. But the need to discuss with the French government, even though I don't know them directly, I felt like I could meet them. So I went to Paris and I met them. And I made a few of my friends that I had 20 years ago there, so we discussed about it. And then they asked me, okay, so you want to start something in Czech Republic, so what's the market there? Do you know how many companies can offer open source services? Do you know how many engineers are really focused on open source, free software there? I had no idea. I had no idea, because there's no real business ecosystem here that is visible. Nothing. So there was a lack. And I discussed with people who did that. I actually know some of them who have companies, free software companies in France. So I discussed, how do you make yourself visible? And do you know how you can get together to advertise yourself? And so they explained me, and I went back to André saying, yeah, we need to, that's already the conclusion, yeah, no. We need to make an alliance of these open source businesses that exist in Czech Republic. And he said, that's a good idea, that's exactly the time. It's right, it's the right moment. You have I listed 3 reasons, you might find more. You have, yeah, government wants to save money. That's not only now, it's always. They never have money for you, but now is the moment where everybody talks about sovereignty. There was already a talk this morning about it with open source. That's the really big thing everywhere in Europe, and we see it daily, that we are dependent from people that might be our enemies tomorrow. How do we do if they cut our hostings or even our office suites that are hosted somewhere else? So what do we do? So sovereignty is a big thing, and actually now it's the time where when we talk about sovereignty, people understand it. Before they were, yeah, whatever, they need our money, so they will run it for us. Well, it happens that sometimes they can cut it if they're angry at us. So. And another topic, which is also long-running, but it's getting strong because of sovereignty, is about people asking for privacy, yeah. I'm looking for my words in English too. Privacy, and they want to know what they use and how their data are handled. That's normally that's 20 years. No, not 20 years. That's 10 years. We have GDPR in Europe, so it's 20 years. Everybody should respect it. So we should have it, but apparently people are still asking for it because we have to click every day on banners to stop getting cookies and so on. So these are things we should get to the public and say, well, we have open source, which is a kind of ecosystem for developing software, for running IT. that makes all these things possible. So if you're looking for sovereignty, run your own free software. If you're looking for transparency and privacy, run your own free software. Or you can make this happen with free software. So this is really the moment. You want to add something about sovereignty?
Yeah, maybe also the business world is full of hyperscale clouds. And if you want to have these kind of services, but not hyperscale cloud, you need a free software. It's that easy. For example, I am working with the technology of Databricks. That's the PySpark. It's open source in the core. But the product, it's limited only to the 3 major hyperscale clouds. So, for example, in our company, we are solving that this is some kind of issue to be so much dependent. And and that's I think, business side of view that's important. And maybe one thing you don't mention enough, it's to help this industry, to businesses with the networking, connection, and market targeting. Because I think a lot of us in this room are working with open source. Some people I see working really on some great open source software. But the market is very picky in that way. And from the other side, I'm sorry, I don't introduce myself. I'm Andre. I have an experience in government, and I am one of the founder of Pirate Party. And I have this experience from the government. And there is the problem that you typically need a contractor because you cannot manage all yourself, especially with the budget cuts and these kind of things. So you need a partner. Just yesterday, on the Mastodon, Nextcloud Foundation, I think, asked the question, what is the biggest blocker for your government to move to Nextcloud? And I was answering, the biggest limitation is lack of sharp partners for implementation. It's easy, I can deploy it, but I cannot do operations for the government for 10 years or something like that without proper contract. So you really need some partner who is sharp, who can fight against the competitors. And that's not easy, and that's one thing we can improve, I think. Back to you, Alex.
Well, I think to figure out what you said, people are interested into getting this market to develop in Czech Republic. They have to get together. So this is what we can do first. So what we can do, we have to convince people that it's the good way to do with the 3 reasons I just listed before. Sovereignty, privacy, cost. These are good reasons for people to switch to open source, so we have to convince. And to convince people, we have to discuss with them. So we have to discuss with big companies. Most big companies, they have an IT department or something like this, and they would need to listen to us to understand all these things. Then we need to present ourselves in a way that people want to buy these solutions or to get to install these solutions. That's the lack of marketing you were mentioning. So that's something that we can build together. And for that, we need to showcase or, show the world that we can do great things. So, because I came with a French background, I'm gonna share with you a bit of history, because so there's a French union or alliance of open source businesses that works well and it's registered as a lobby in Brussels. So they do their job. They do a lot of they present in every trade shows, and so you see them a lot. They are visible and they really represent the French open source businesses. So I would like to get back into history and how we grew up such a body. And so it started, that's a photo from 2005, so it's 20 years ago. And because that's in Paris, and you've heard in the news that there are sometimes demonstrations, strikes in Paris. This one is a demonstration against a law called DAFC. That was a law that was supposed to make illegal the fact that we're breaking DRMs from CDs and DVDs. So, first you had to protect copyright and say, people, you should respect copyright. Do not make copies of your CDs and so on. Do not broadcast it to the public. You don't have the right. That's the law, normal. But then you had the DRMs that was introduced in those things, in devices, and people could not use them anymore. So some people like to run a Linux player, you had to break the DRMs to be able just to play a DVD. But the law wanted to break this because they would allow to copy things and to make illegal things. We don't do illegal things, but they wanted us to not do what could allow us to make illegal things. And so you had a lot of people against this law. I think there was a European directive called EU CD about this. So it was the same kind of thing. You had the same in the US. That was that was kind of trendy at the period to have people not buy CDs anymore, and as a result, we don't buy CDs anymore actually. Yes, so we got together and demonstrated with other people who were defending freedom in general. And you have already in France in 2005 Linux user groups, associations of education and so on. So you had already groups, but now there's that law that forbids us from playing DVDs on a Linux thing. We have to get together to speak to our representative to make things change. So we just woke up and got together and organized some actions. And actually, I can tell you that didn't work. So we stopped buying DVDs. The law got passed. At the same time, you had a European law about software patent. And this time, with our other European friends, we were lucky. They didn't pass the bill. So another success. 2007, there was another law called Adopi, which was the same kind of DAFC, but with a body looking after what everybody was doing on the network. We didn't like it, we protested, it went through. So we still have it, but that was only targeting torrent. So people started to move from torrent to streaming at the time. So the law isn't effective now, but that's, yeah, we were telling them, they didn't listen, they passed the law, and after that's yet another unuseful law. But the thing is, we just woke up and we saw that we had to change things, otherwise we couldn't do what we like to, and we learned how to talk to our representative to change things. This didn't go this time in 2005 or 2007, but we had a channel with some politicians. And once you start to talk about politicians, you can tell them what you do, and you can say, oh, you know, in your region, you're having this thing with an IT department running this. Well, you could use this free software that could be interesting. And then they started to build relation with businesses, local businesses. So little by little, you had a gathering of small regional or gathering by interest. So little associations representing free software, but that was only regional. And that's only in, I'm talking, that's only, yep. So that's only in 2010 that the main national association of open source businesses started, was created. Before you had those regional bodies, and then the CNNL came and did like a federation of it. But because they had a president representing all these companies in regions, they had direct access to the government. Well, direct access. You know, you have to push, to lobby, to be heard. But that went quite well. There's a law. It's not a law. It's kind of it's like a decree from the Prime Minister that was published in 2012, La Circulaire Héros, that was the first time mentioned in law that open source, free software should be considered for government supply in IT. It's not have to, so, you know, you can ignore this, but for the first time it was stated in the law, and so when you discuss with another regulating body, you can say, hey, you should follow these advice, and that has force of law.
Sorry, this is really important, for example, for public procurement, because of course public procurement is very strict. And you need some declaration of strategy to really choose some ways. Otherwise, you just end with the price and usual products. But if you have some strategy, for example, in Czech is very famous, the environmental strategy and these kind of things, you have something.
Yeah, so that was the kind of thing we were doing, not me, but they were doing. There's a public tender that's open saying we want to buy new computers with Microsoft Word and so on. And some people could come back thanks to this decree saying, well, you shouldn't write, you know, that's a public tenant, you shouldn't mention a brand, you should let it open and say you want a word processor running on these computers so that everybody can reply and give a price, and if it's LibreOffice or if it's whoever, today's that would be Collabora or things like this, but you shouldn't mention only one brand from one supplier. And because you have that text, that could help people to open the market. That's difficult for people who only have, since they were at school, they're using only Microsoft Word, only this exists. So that's difficult to explain them, but because you have a text telling them that you can change that, you can change it. And actually, that's what CNNL did next. They started to make ministries accountable for what they were doing. In 2015, the Ministry of Education did a kind of the big open bar contract with Microsoft, where they pay a lot of millions to Microsoft, and thanks to that, you have all employees or all public servants, they can use the software they want. And so they renew it every 5 years or so, and they will renewing it. And there's an association called Educaton that started, And with CNNL, they sued the government, saying you shouldn't do that. And they questioned them. They had several questions at the law chamber. The government had to be accountable for this. The contract was still signed, but that position really CNNL as the body that was challenging the government when they were not doing things with taking into account open source. And thanks to that, they went further. When they went to the when the discussion about Cyber Resilience Act started at European level, they started to see things that were not compliant with the way open source companies were running. So they started to complain, say you shouldn't do that. And by listening to the goals of the lawmakers, they saw that there was a need here to face. It's about security. And they started to engage with a real discussion to build Cyber Resilience Act together. And nowadays, today, well, CNNL is, you're gonna have to write the password again, sorry. Today, CNNL is getting back to its members, so all the French open source companies, explaining them how to comply with the CRA. So the Cyber Resilience Act has passed, it was voted. Now we're gonna have to comply with it, I think, by the end of the year. And French companies will be ready because they have an association that helps them to get ready for that. Because CNNL was engaged into the writing of that law, they're kind of experts to guide companies. And of course, they guide their members first. So, and yeah, that's a nice photo of what else they are organizing is a contest of significant free software actors of the year. So that was the photo before. Yeah, so that was in December this year. And the president is sitting on the left. And you have all these actors, not only in companies, because you know, when you have an open source company and you get involved with the community, you have people who are not employees, but they are contributors or members of the community. And it's really a picture that shows that you have companies, they defend their business, but they work with the community and they get together to advertise a little bit about it. So I'll skip that one because I talked about it. And the question is same as when we order a beer. What do we do here? Same thing. So we don't have to demonstrate in the street if the government doesn't propose any bill that doesn't concern us, but we can start to do things that follows the same path. First, I would say we don't know much about the market, and CNNL is on a regular basis doing a study with a cabinet market study company that does only this. They know what's the annual turnover of open source businesses in the country. They know how many employees there is in this field. They have a complete report on what's the ecosystem here. We don't know it here, so that's going to be something we can run. Yeah, but before that, we need to figure out where we come from. And so, with my poor knowledge of a foreigner living here for 10 years, I know that Czechs, they're quite good in IT. They have software. I think Czech Republic is the only country where Google was not the first visited website on top of the rating, thanks to Seznam. Yeah, that was Japan. They were using Yahoo, but Czech Republic and Seznam, the house made engine, which is still a company that has a lot of engineers. So that shows there's a know-how here. Avast is another example. You also have projects that deals with open source that are very well known. Bird, you might not know it, but it's running in most data centers in the world to manage routing. And it comes from Prague. That's I think that's a Chvíli project originally. So yeah, and so you have examples. You might know more than me, and you also have IT companies that wants to capitalize on that know-how in Czech Republic by having offices here to hire engineers to sell the service abroad. Because the know-how is here. So there is something here. There's a know-how, there's an ecosystem that's already being built. We also have a community, which is why we are here. There's a community organizing events in several places in Czech Republic. You have groups dealing with open data, with open information like Wikipedia, OpenStreetMap. And you have developers that know what open source is and know what is it to share about it. This is why you have the pivot sign, if you didn't recognize it. And also you want to look at what's already happened in Czech Republic, because I'm not the only one who had this idea to gather companies. Well, these initiatives started, for the first one, it didn't last long. The second one, I think in 2007, when we were demonstrating in Paris, it was already there, Liberix. So they did a lot about awareness, presenting open source in schools and so on. So they had a bit of a success, but it looks like they were a team that was too small. And at one point, they could not handle even the paperwork you have to run an official body. So they had to close. That was not a. Yeah, what's the name of that structure? That was not a ZCR. That was an OPS. So yeah, so you had to have a control body with that many people. Yeah, and that was too heavy for them. So they had to liquidate it. That's I don't know how you say in English. I mentioned this already. This is the moment we're talking about sovereignty. That's the moment if you want to add more about this, but I think you've heard it. And so these are the reasons why you're here. I've included these words in the description of this presentation. So that's more or less what CNNL has been doing in the 10 past years. So defending, so each time there is a threat coming from, that could be competition from closed software, that could be a bill that is not taking open source businesses into account. We have to voice that we disagree. And this is defending this. Straightened, reinforce the ecosystem. First, we have to know it, and then we have to make sure companies that embrace open source have all that they need to do their business, to sell what they have, and we have to make sure that they can have clients. If there is a public tender that says they can only buy a Microsoft Word, to take the example I told you before, then we should make it happen that they can still candidate with an offer with Collabora. Straighten, reprezentovat. Yeah, things like going to trade shows, but not shows like open source shows, but going to industry shows, car shows, trade shows where people are looking for IT solutions, but they're not especially looking for open source. But open source can bring some solutions. Yeah, engage. Well, that's what I'm doing here. But since I'm not really an open source company, I hope next time there is a presentation about it, you're going to have a real representative of such a body. And then spread out. General public still need to know about free software, about that OS that runs on this computer, which is GNU Linux. So, yeah, we wanted to save time to discuss about it as well. You know, we can start to discuss about things, but, you know, I'm presenting you some experience, some of the wheels, some of the reasons why we can start this, but then that's not up to me. That's about to people who represent open source and open source friendly companies to start to discuss about the name. That can take ages to discuss about a name, about what structure do they want, if they have to have a big website to present themselves, if they want to have a president, or if they want to have just a coordinating body or whatever. I would say it's up to you, but you need to get together first. So, yeah, it's open to discussion. I can share with you just one anecdote, because I just started a new work recently, and I had to go to a trade show. I deal with tourism now, and there was a trade show in Litomyr, that's a castle between Moravia and Czechia. Doesn't matter. There was a show for DPOs. You had event organizers and regions getting together in it was not a great show, but you had that's for event organizers. And there you had I wrote his name, Jan Kubinec. Jan Kubinec is the president of a body called Česká eventová asociace. So event organizers have an association that represents themselves because they felt the need of discussing with the regions and the government. They started their association in 2022. Do you know what was their motivation? Or maybe that was 21, yeah. Event organizers. They didn't feel like doing it until recently, because, you know, every one of them were organizing their events, they have their contacts, they want to share them, they do their business and so on. And then 2019, 20, COVID happens. They can't do anything for years. Restaurants, hotels, they have a body that represents themselves. They could ask the government for money. They didn't. So they just realized that they needed a body, and they just woke up too late. So he was presenting this, saying what they were doing and so on. A few of the things that I discussed here, they were starting to do it. But for them, in 2020, that was too late.
Maybe just one small addition. This part is really important also for the government, because as the government, it's really difficult to discuss with some specific company, because you need to be neutral, and you cannot discuss with SUSE and not with Red Hat and these kind of things. And of course, a lot of companies has no capacity to this kind of a discussion. So the association is the way how to have a professional to communicate the interest in some neutral way where the competitors are, but as the interests are already filtered through some association, it's not so much dangerous. It's more straightforward, and it's really better.
That gives the guarantee that negotiation with the government is a negotiation that will benefit everybody, not only the person that represents his company. So that's very important to have someone with a representative. So now I think we still have 14 minutes to discuss about what could be done, what could be the next step. I'm not sure we can discuss the name now, but things like this. I just will let you again to wake you up to get back to the conclusion that we need this now, and if we want, I can follow discussions, especially on topics that I prepared in Czech. So maybe we can switch back to Czech, and the mic is for you. And if you have any questions or details that you want to ask, you can as well.
So maybe I would have a question when it comes to representation of open source like this. We have ways to lobby the government, our governments to do stuff better for open source, but how do we deal with the fact that many foreign governments that still have big impact on technology at large, I'm talking mostly about United States, are pushing laws which would lead to, which don't take open source into account? Like, is there a way for us to deal with that? Like,
maybe I...
Můžeme v češtině, jestli jo.
Tak teď jsem zmatený, jestli česky nebo anglicky. Ale asi to všichni zvládnou. Jo. Takže ta otázka byla, co vlastně s vlivama jiných vlád a tak dále. No to je přesně ten problém. Upřímně moje zkušenost je, že tam nemusí být jako nějaká konkrétní špatná vazba, ale není tam vlastně sebevědomí. Není tam, jo, jako když řeknete nějakému běžnému politikovi, že bychom mohli nasadit rezervační systém na očkování, s tím jsem si zažil své, tak on začne hledat partnera. Ani ho nenapadne, že se to dá napsat třeba za víkend, popřípadě, že ty partnery doopravdy již má v České republice. Jo, a zrovna tady to byl velký problém, protože partner, kterého si tehdejší vládní zmocněnec vybral, následně začal líkovat data a podobně, což zrovna u zdravotnických věcí asi není úplně hezké, ale to je přesně ono. Tady nebyl nikdo, kdo by to řekl ze strany biznisu, hele, my jsme schopni to udělat a udělat to správně od začátku a třeba našim členům pošleme prostě, že jste zahájili nějaký výběrko a z druhé strany těm členům třeba pomoc s přihlášením se do toho výběrka, protože to je zase hrozně moc byrokracie. Po případě třeba přes tyhle asociace vzniká, že se spojí víc firem. Protože třeba splnit některé nároky není jednoduchý, protože tam máte třeba, že potřebujete 10 expertů v oblastech blablabla. Já to nesnáším, podle mě to ničemu nepomáhá, ale je to častý. A to třeba velmi často jedna firma není schopná garantovat. A když to je jako konsorcium 3 firem, tak to zvládnou. Vím, že v té dnešní roztroušené atmosféře, kdy my jsme už trošku pomlouvali Red Hat u oběda, kdy třeba Red Hat de facto do Čech neprodává, tak jako já jsem se opravdu třeba z vládní úrovně snažil ale já jsem vlastně neměl ty business partnery. Jo? Takže to opravdu přesně tohle se začne lámat takhle a postupem času se to emancipuje do toho, že si to budeme uvědomovat. Stejně jako, já nevím, si to uvědomujeme u aut nebo u něčeho takového. A furt si třeba myslím, že já nevím, kdyby jsme v České republice ve velkém chtěli nakoupit policajtům čínský auta, tak by z toho byla velká veřejná debata. Tak u softwaru to není, protože jako nevidíme reálnou alternativu jakoby všeobecně. My tady v místnosti ji vidíme, to je jasný, ale prostě vysvětlete to někomu venku na zastávce. Jo, že prostě třeba Big Tech je fakt problematický s nakládáním s osobními údaji. Konec konců všichni ty lidi mají do jistý míry stockholmský syndrom. No, prostě oni už tam všechny data mají, tak je přesvědčujte, že je to fakt špatný a že to fakt nechceme. No to je vlastně úplně nesmyslný, protože oni už tu chybu udělali a takže jako pro ně nemá velkou přidanou hodnotu, aby tu chybu už znovu neudělal stát. Jo, a tohle to musíme prostě vybojovat a postupně emancipovat.
Já možná můžu trošku v angličtině taky. The question was about there's a kind of a commercial war that happens sometimes. And how can we bring open source on the... I think when you want to get to help your government to reply to this, if they want sovereignty, it's better to not say open source is the solution to everything, but look together how we can solve this sovereignty problem. And then you have this experience with open source and you bring it on the table. I think that's what they did with when they negotiated CRA. They looked at what the lawmakers had in mind before they started to look at what they wanted. I think you have to, maybe it's a technique of lobbying. You put yourself in the shoes of the lawmaker and you try to write something that complies with the request. Ale můžeme v češtině. Já mám dotaz. Víte, že je, jak se jmenuje ten website, když jsou ty ověření trh, nives. Jak se jmenuje? Tohle jsem to psal. Nipez.cz. Tam můžete vidět, kolik lidí, obec nebo...
Jsou všechny veřejné zakázky nebo
A vy jste zkusili najít tam Microsoft a kolik lidí chce koupit Microsoft licence na to? Zkuste to.
Zase pro doplnění. Tohle není jenom o státu samotném. Tohle není jenom o státu samotném. Jo? Třeba když napadnete podmínky toho výběrového řízení, to znamená, proč tam píšou Office, proč nenapíšou, nebo Microsoft Office, nebo dokonce dneska Office 365, že jo? A proč tam nenapíšou něco obecnějšího, tak kde to skončí? U soudu. A ten to musí rozhodnout. A opět jsme u toho. Ten soud musí mít nějaký kvalifikovaný podklady. Samozřejmě ty podklady mu nemůže dodat jako přímá konkurence. Jo, jako, že to je zase věc, kterou třeba můžeme s ní nesouhlasit, ale prostě máme nějaký justiční systém, je špatný, rozhodně jsou soudci velmi nevzdělaní v této oblasti, ale to říká, potřebujeme se snažit je vzdělávat, dávat podklady, ukazovat alternativy, jo, ale prostě to je to řešení. Takže jenom jako, že to není vždycky jenom o vládě, o biznisu nebo tak, ale vlastně celý ten ekosystém funguje dohromady a je strašně důležité si uvědomit, že čím díl to nefunguje, tím víc jsou překážky na všech frontách.
Jestli nemáte... Jo.
Jenom k těm počtům veřejných zakázek pro Microsoft, tak je to v aktuální chvíli přes 8 stránek po 50, to znamená...
Stránek? Jo. No, je obvykle normálně, protože mají počítači a musí platit licence a proto publikují, ale tam možná stojí nějaký žádání o řešení, který může open source vyřešit.
Já bych se chtěl zeptat, tady cílem je vytvořit teda nějakou alianci nebo sdružení, která by zaštiťovala open source. Jak se k tomu staví ty samotné firmy? Máte navázaný s tím nějaký spolupráce, protože firma je tady především o to, aby vydělávala peníze, že jo? Musí uživit sebe, svůj provoz, svý zaměstnance. Mají vůbec o to zájem ty firmy? Máte nějaký business partnery v té komerční biznisové sféře?
Co tady dělají firmy? Vůbec nevím. A proto jsem tady a zeptám, protože ve Francii je trh na open source, to je v roce 15 byly 50 000 000 eur ten trh, jenom open source ve Francii. Trh je tady taky, ale už nevíme, jak velký je. Ale myslím, že jsou tady firmy, které dělají open source. Může být jenom malý WordPress pro malý obec, nevím. Ale musíme všechno dát dohromady a vidět, že jsme silní. A vždy říkám jsme, ale nejsem podnikatel, neřídím firmu, tak jsem tady jenom protože chci pomáhat, protože Francouzi mají zkušenost. Ale musíte vyřešit všichni. Mám taky dotaz pro sálu. Kdo tady je podnikatel nebo řídí open source firmu? Tady? A kdo tady je zaměstnanec open source firmu? Nebo? No. A ty ostatní jsou studenty nebo? No. No to může být zajímavý také. No.
Tak jo, já už se omlouvám, bohužel jsme končili s časem, takže velmi děkujeme za zajímavou přednášku ohledně open source. Samozřejmě